The best salespeople in the world are the ones who do it without you even noticing. Everyone's a salesperson, especially if you're an entrepreneur. In the I'm Not Salesy podcast, join me, Cassie McKenzie, and my fabulous guests as we dive into the top strategies, mindset, and energetics around sales and money so that you can hear more, yes, I'm in, instead of crickets or getting ghosted. So if you're ready to fully book out your programs with aligned AF clients and have people chasing you down in your inbox, asking how to work with you, then subscribe to this podcast today and become not salesy too. Yay! Oh my God. I am so excited for today's episode of I'm Not Salesy. Welcome back for another hot one, like coming in hot, right? I've got to use all the hot references. It's becoming summer here in Florida. And I'm super excited because I love blending the woo and the do, as I say. And that means you have got to understand that when you are adding strategy after strategy after strategy and it's not working, then it can be more than just mindset. Even some people are like, oh, it's just your mindset. That's 80%. Really, I believe like your mindset is just a small part overall of your energetic capacity. And I'm so excited for the guest today that I have, Jess Smith. I almost called you Jeff Smith. I'm so sorry. It's so funny. I'm like, Jess is actually like calling in or on zooming in from, LA. So she's 3 hours behind me. And this is the second time that I've been like, I should be the one that it's 7 a.m. and you're 10 a.m. I don't know what's wrong with me. What is going on today? But Jess is an EFT practitioner for ambitious entrepreneurs. And she works with business owners that want to master their mindset and their emotions so they can scale their businesses with confidence and ease. And this is, as you know, or you might not know, emotions are energy in motion, right? And if you have followed any manifestation teachings that I've done, your thoughts create your beliefs create your actions create your results. So it's that energy and that energetics behind your beliefs and behind your thoughts that are propelling you towards whatever great or crappy results that you're getting. And today we're exploring this topic today. And guess what? Money. We're bringing money into it. We're going to make you feel less weird and wonky around money. And I can't wait. So I hope you enjoy this and welcome Jess.
Thank you so much for having me, Cassie. I'm so excited to be here. Love the topic, love like the woo and the do. So this is right up my alley. Can't wait to chat.
I know, me too. Okay, so let's dive in. I really believe that, a lot of people's sales issues stem from money issues, right? A lot of the stories that we tell ourselves, the weird feelings that you have around sales come from the simple act that when you're selling something, there's usually a transaction there. And if you're in a business and you're not looking at your business like a hobby, which you don't get paid for, right? A business is an empire possibly that you're building, and it requires you making money in order to have a business. So that requires you to ask for money in your sales calls. And I know we were talking about this earlier, people can feel really weird. Like I've had clients come to me and they're just like afraid to take somebody's hard-earned money. And from time to time, I'll be honest, like I have to get my mindset around this too, because it is something so ingrained. And so I know Jess and I were talking, and you look at it like an issue with greed. And that's something I had never like put two and two together, right? That it's because I never thought, oh, it's greedy to want more money. But
Yeah.
honestly, it makes so much sense that you might feel like it's greedy to be asking for somebody else's money in exchange for something that you're naturally gifted at, especially, right? And so, what are your thoughts? How have you seen this play out? I'm so excited to dive into this.
Yeah. So this makes me think of a client that I had in the past who had come to me for tapping sessions, and she wanted to work on her discomfort around asking for money. Exactly what we're talking about, right? It was really uncomfortable for her to get on a sales call and say, hey, my program costs $5,000. Do you want to do it? Where's your credit card? That was really, really uncomfortable for her. And the thing that came up was greed. She was like, wow, they're going to think I'm so greedy. So it was a lot of fear around like, what are they going to think of me? How are they going to perceive me? So that was a major component of it. And when we kind of trace this back in time, so maybe we can talk about this as well at some point, but how tapping works, the work that I do,
Sure.
we look back in time to say, where did this block come from? When did I first feel that it was greedy to accept money? Right. And so for this particular client, she had memories as a little girl where people tried to give her money, whether it was relatives or whoever it was in her life. And her parents said, no, no, you can't accept that. We don't accept money from other people. So you can imagine as a little girl, her brain was programmed to think like, no, don't take money from other people. It is bad to receive money from other people. You're going to look bad if you take money from other people. That was kind of another layer. That was like, if you accept money from other people, they're going to think you don't have money.
Yeah.
Think you need.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's lots of little nuances
The
here.
shame component.
Yeah, a shame component for sure. And lots of what are they going to think of me? What is like so much weight on what is this other person going to think? How are they going to perceive me? And
Mhm.
so it was vastly uncomfortable for her to ask for money on calls, even though exactly like you mentioned, I love that you said this, she was offering health related coaching. It's her natural skill set. It was her gift. She was so good at that.
Mhm.
And so she totally deserves to be paid $5,000 for her program. Her clients are getting incredible results. And yet it was so challenging for her to just make that simple ask. And
Yeah.
that was why her sales weren't going well, because she couldn't make the ask for money. It was too uncomfortable. She would get off the phone and be like, oh my God, I didn't ask them. I didn't share the price with them.
Oh my God, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you say it so fast, or you say it and like you're back, it's almost like you're falling off a cliff asking, you're like, get throw me the rope if you want. But don't worry, no problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So what tapping can do for us is we can go back in time to those moments where she was experiencing shame, experiencing greed, experiencing fear, because tapping is technically called emotional freedom techniques,
Mhm.
emotional freedom. So in tapping, we focus on our emotions. So we go back in time to those moments where she experienced shame, greed, fear. And with the tapping, we can clear those emotions that have been stuck in her body for years and years and years. And then what happens is you're not as triggered in the present moment.
Mhm.
So she became more capable of saying that $5,000 number out loud, right? Being
Right.
able to ask clients for it. It's really
And
cool.
feel like she was worthy of it. Like so much of money issues are a worth issue. And even jobs. Like I've seen clients that have even friends and family members that I've worked with or been around who are going for jobs. And at the beginning, like say they've been paid 100K in the past, at the beginning, they're like, oh yeah, I'm worth 100K. But as time goes on, their worth goes less and less and less. And before you know it, they're accepting jobs that are just commission only. And so and so made 5 million, but you can too, and like something that they never would have done considered in the past, and I see it in sales too, like if you're a coach online and you're selling something and it's not selling and you start fiddling around with the price, and
Mm,
that's fiddling around with your energy too, or messing around. Like one thing that I've done in the past is messed around with, oh well, who's my ideal client, let me kind of like use it as a dartboard for whoever I'm getting messages from, just try to shape the offer. Nobody's joined yet, so let's shape it towards this person and then call in more of that when it's an energetic decision, like maybe it's more of looking where is that like indecision coming from too, in both of those examples. But so like I actually became a practitioner of NLP and hypnosis, and part of that was also EFT, but they did not teach us EFT like this, which I find really interesting because in NLP, so much of it is going back to old memories and shifting the way your perspective is around them and moving forward. And it's crazy that, like, you've paired both of these and it makes so much sense to me. Like, as you're talking, I'm like, fuck, that's good. Like, yes, of course, that's what you do. So
yeah.
we were just taught, oh, here's the things to tap on, just say this and like let it all out and then replace it with what you want, right? Like it was pretty simple, but not that effective, because it's effective in that moment, but not a breakthrough that you keep getting. You know what I mean? So definitely,
Completely.
yeah, tell me, explain for everybody if they're, especially if they're not familiar with EFT, like what's the
Yes.
process? How does it work? And God, I love the way that you do it, because no wonder you get such amazing results, and how it's different every single time for every single person.
Yeah, and I love that you bring this up because I think this is something a lot of people don't know about tapping. I've found that a lot of the entrepreneur community is familiar with tapping in the way that you just described it, which I describe as reactive.
Yeah.
So it's like in the moment, you're like, holy crap, I have to get on the sales call and I'm freaking out. And then you like use tapping to calm yourself down, right? Most people know it in that capacity. So it's reactive. The emotion comes up and you use the tapping to clear it out, which is awesome. It works great for that. I'm not discounting that.
Yeah, you
That's
get the
amazing.
tingles, right?
Yeah, that works great. But we can also use it proactively. So this is where we are going back in time and digging around and saying like, hey, where did this come from? Like, what memories do you have around this? Because the way that it works is your brain has tagged that experience as something dangerous, something to look out for, something that we don't want to experience again, right? So my client experienced shame trying to receive money in the past, and her parents said, no, 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 don't do that. You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So internally, she was like, oh gosh, that's wrong. I did something wrong, shame.
Mhm.
Her brain has tagged that as do not do that again. She's
Yeah.
still carrying that tag with her into the present day. So when this comes up that she has to ask for money, her brain says, oh gosh, danger, like you're going to feel shame, like don't do that, right? So it's just her brain trying to protect her. That's okay.
Mhm.
But when we can proactively use tapping, we can go back in time to those moments, clear the emotions, which is the equivalent of taking the tag off of it. We're taking the danger tag off of that moment. And so what happens in the present moment is you're not triggered as often. So you don't have to use the reactive tapping as much because the trigger isn't coming up. You're not getting as worked up about it as you might have in the past. So it's very proactive.
Need to use this with my in-laws and my parents in the military. Mm. That's
It
so
works on a lot of things.
told me that listening to him. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Wow, that is so awesome. Like, and the thing that comes up so often that you touched on a minute ago too was around getting paid for your gifts. And what I see is that shame of, why are you charging for this? Right? Like this comes so easily to you. And even if you're in like this, I see this a lot in the spiritual community, and even like a lot of like Christian faith-based people too. And even psychics. Like I saw somebody like publicly shamed yesterday for the price that she charged for an intuitive session too, where it's like, good for you charging that much because only the rich could afford you, like that kind of thing. And
Mm,
obviously that's somebody else's belief that they're projecting on her, but if she has something in her that says, you know this is a gift that was given you by God or by the universe or by, I don't know, Archangel Michael, like, you are not supposed to be charging for this. This is supposed to be given away for free. And also, even if you're not, like, even if that's not really there, the other side I can see is like, this comes so easy for you. Why can you charge for it? Everybody knows this already. Nobody's going to pay that much for this because obviously it's so easy. Anybody could do it. You know what I mean? Those I feel like are kind of in the same similar bucket, but they affect a ton because they affect a ton of people that I come in touch with. So
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
um,
Or even coming from like a corporate job, because that was this same client. One of the other facets of this money situation was that so she was doing health coaching. And previously in her corporate job, they had, I don't remember what the setup was, but I think she was in another country and it was offered for free. Like the clients didn't actually pay for the service that she provided. So to
oh
now be out on her own, she's like, oh my God, yeah, I used to do this for free, essentially. And
yeah.
now I'm trying to charge $5,000 for it. And that was really, really uncomfortable for her. So that's, I think, a huge thing that comes up for a lot of us. And it's just like, again, look at all the past conditioning that has led us to where we are. Like
Yeah.
society, our families, so much conditions us into who we are currently. And it's really up to us to shift that and mold that into something else if we choose to.
I totally agree. Like one thing when I first started my business, I found that it seemed so easy to make money in corporate. Like it was so easy to take that paycheck and take that bonus and be told you did a great job and you're so talented. But shifting that out into taking somebody else's hard-earned money, or looking at, maybe it was because I was like, when I first started my business, I had 2 young kids. And so if I joined somebody else's program and it wasn't quite what I was sold, or it didn't, like there's a lot of people out there just refurbishing what they learned from Tony Robbins. And, then you get in it and you're like, damn, they were really great salespeople, but I already, like, none of this is really landing in a new way. You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
so, like, I think that all of these individual experiences, especially because, your subconscious rewires itself on, experts in your life, and your experts, most of them are up until the age of 7. But I'll tell you, my husband finds a new expert every time he hears a new podcast. And that expert gives him an opinion that finds the fucking like fast track down into his brain that's like, this is the way it is. You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? And so it's really easy to get that. And I've found, like, I've almost, I mean, and I don't know if it's because you become an entrepreneur, but I feel like this conversation is really important because a lot of people who I work with are really, and I hate to use the word try, because like from an NLP perspective, it's like do or do not, like Yoda, right? But if you're either making sales or you're not. And if you want to leave your 9 to 5 job, you've got to make enough sales to know that there's always recurring revenue coming in, that you have that, that your sales or your selling abilities are the last thing that's going to stop you from having a business that supports you so that you can finally leave that rat race behind, right? And so I work with a lot of people who are in that space where, like, you're making some sales, but you're meant for more. And so coming away from the what seems like comfort and security of the corporate world into this like wild big animal of an entrepreneur life, that can bring up so much of your biggest fears, right? And
Yeah.
have you seen this too? Like, how have you seen this play out? Because I don't know if it's because we've got a lot of repressed things that are coming up that have to be looked at, or if it's because also, like, and I had never considered it until this conversation started, but like, you're really coming, like, there's a lot of people acting like experts online. And every single day you can compare yourself to them or take their course and think things have to be a certain way. And all of a sudden you create new rules that need to be uncreated. And I feel like all of that is such a mind fuck that you have to like really, like pay attention to what are the rules you're setting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I left the corporate world, so I had a corporate job. I worked in recruiting for 4 years at a tech company.
Yeah.
So when I left, because I kind of just jumped off the ledge and was like, I'm going to build a business, and left.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, like, I talk on the phone to people every day. I'm going to be good at this, right? Like, I can do this. It was totally a different thing to sell myself versus sell a company. When I'm selling the company, it's like, hey, if you don't like the company, cool. I don't care if you like my tech company or not, right? But when you're selling yourself, I didn't realize prior that that's like such a different experience, and like rejection, right? Like that can really bring people down when you get rejected. Things aren't working. Like you said, you're like, oh, is it the offer? I need to start fiddling with all this stuff because things aren't coming together the way that I thought it would. And I think as entrepreneurs, you're not if you're not good at managing the emotions around that come up with all of that, that can really easily take you out
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where like a DM template isn't going to work. That's where like having
Mhm.
that identity work that you're doing constantly. And if you're listening to this and you have a coach, and you have a coach for strategy or sales strategy, that's great. But if you don't have somebody that's there to help you with your mindset and your energetics, then you're literally leaving a huge piece on the table, because this is where I see a lot of people trip up, where you start comparing yourself, or you start procrastinating, or flip into like perfectionism, when also really it goes down, it's honestly your identity and how you see yourself, and how you're taking action from that space and getting in that, you know, more of like the feeling and in the heart base than working shit out in your head, right? Like I tried for so long in certain areas of my business to add strategy, and you can't out strategy any kind of limitations in your mind or any energy blocks that are there.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where it gets dicey too, because it's like the go-to is, well, what's a different strategy that I could try?
Mhm.
But it's not that the strategy doesn't work. It's just that maybe you can't execute it to the degree that would get it to work, right? Because your mindset, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs are not in alignment to have that strategy play out with the result that you want. And I loved what you shared earlier, because I like talk about this too. The beliefs influence thoughts. I add emotions, thoughts
Yeah.
influence emotions,
Yeah.
actions and results. So if you look at those different pieces, right? Taking action is at the bottom. You got to start with the beliefs, the thoughts, the emotions, get those pieces in line first. And then the actions look different.
Right. Yeah.
Actions look different at that point. Yeah. Which then produce different results.
They really do. Yeah. Like I get in this conversation a lot, and like especially online you can see like the same types of people commenting or whatever on, especially on LinkedIn, and I can feel the energy with which they're there, like I can feel where there's something missing and that's why they're there. And so there's one thing you can do when you're sending DMs, especially like I see people saying like, "Oh, if I send a DM to somebody, then they automatically think that I'm selling to them." When
Mm.
really they can feel the energy behind it. You know what I mean? Like there's some kind of thing in you that's saying, "I need to send this so that I can get a sale." And they can feel it. They can feel that you're doing that. That's why they're not opening up. Or maybe your the angle of it is that, I'm only sending this to make a sale instead of sending it from like a service-based space. And that comes with practice. I feel like it comes with a lot of mindset work, like I try to look at my DMs like people love to get the DMs when they see my name in their inbox. They're like, "Oh, hell yeah, this is cool." You know? But before I used to be somebody when I had no DM experience, I was like, "Ooh, am I bothering somebody by like saying hi or reaching out or whatever? Or are they gonna think I'm weird for, commenting on something that they just wrote on, like, you know what I mean? Like you can get in your head so easily."
Yeah.
So
This is like a little bit adjacent, but I have a client that I'm working with right now. I think you'll find this really interesting. She has a big Instagram following, a big TikTok following. She's great at making videos, but she finds it really challenging to write emails to her community. And she finds it really challenging to write posts for LinkedIn, which in her line of work, LinkedIn is like an obvious platform for her to be using. And as we looked at the limits behind that, like what's going on, what's the energy behind this block? Why won't it work? Why does she feel so challenged by it and so easeful on other platforms? What we came to is that she feels she can't be her authentic self via email and via LinkedIn. Why, right? Why is that a block on these platforms and not the other ones? It's because she perceives them to be more professional, emails and LinkedIn.
yeah.
And she
Oh.
has experiences from the past where she was told that she's too sensitive to be a professional. She has
Mhm.
experiences from the past where she had cried in a work setting and people were like, you can't be doing this. Like, I can't, work with you in this capacity. And I thought that was so fascinating that it can show up in so many different little ways. So we're working on releasing that shame of being too sensitive, that story, right? So she can put herself out there on LinkedIn and email because she knows they're important, right? And so I love what you're saying about it's the energy behind it matters so much.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, and like what made her stand out and say, "Hey, EFT might be for me." I sound like a poet right there. I love it. But yeah, what made her say that?
Yeah, I think most of my clients come to me knowing that they have a mindset block
Mhm.
because I don't do any strategy. So I love like partnering with people like yourself who have the strategy component. I don't do any business strategy. So by the time that they come to me, they typically have some sort of strategy in place and they
Mhm.
know they could be executing it better They
Yeah.
just know there's something internal that's blocking them. So obviously she's crushing it on Instagram and TikTok, right? So she's like, what the heck is my problem that I can't like sit down and write these emails or write these LinkedIn posts? And so once people recognize like, oh, this is an inner problem, that's when they kind of show up in my world and they're like, can you help me clear this, right? Can you help me get through this place where I know that I'm blocking myself?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's it's so subtle too. And sometimes the shift is like, so like it's something that you just maybe didn't even see before. It's so subtle and it's so little, but it makes such a big difference, or just like some blip in the road that never would have affected somebody else, like totally affected you back in the day. And you're like, holy shit, that's been the thing. You know what I mean? Like that's been the thing that's held me back this whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
I was surprised. She was like, oh my gosh, wow, like here it is. Here's the thing. I think I'm too sensitive because people have told me that I am, and I've
Yeah.
believed them, right? So she
Yeah.
gets to create a new story for herself in our work together.
Yeah. Well, and like there's not from a strategy perspective, like you can still post that same kind of content on LinkedIn too, with the understanding that your ideal people are going to find you there too. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
see men being sensitive on there all the time,
Mm.
me granted they're coaches in my world and like you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
can see that because when I first started on LinkedIn, I felt the same way. And like obviously for my podcast, like I can totally be myself, right? Because it's my podcast, it's whatever, and people want to listen or they don't. And same on, like Instagram and Insta stories, but I've even let those go by the wayside since coming over to LinkedIn because I love LinkedIn so much and the collaboration and the real feeling of community. But there is always like since I had only been on it from since like I'm turning 45 this year. So clearly I was one of the first like 100 people on LinkedIn back in like 2006, right? I think I remember being like, oh, sure, I'll join this, whatever. So most of my people were from my corporate pharma life when I came over. And so that it's almost like you put like the corporate, it's almost like a straight jacket, right? On like immediately and go to work on LinkedIn. And so at first I was hiding a lot of my normal self too. I mean, one, I heard like you could get banned on LinkedIn for cursing or get like turned in for certain, content or whatever that probably would have just been ignored on the other platforms. So there's always like that I'm gonna get in trouble. My mom's gonna come and like make me sit in my room and it's like really LinkedIn saying, yeah, you're banned for like 24 hours or whatever. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
but like I struggle with that thing too, but I think it's all wrapped in. I mean, here I've been in corporate for 20 years, like there's a lot, and it was a very regulated, highly like put the mask on. I mean, I was like myself with my customers and clients. That's why I teach sales the way I do, right? Like not the stuffy salesy way, but at the same time, you were expected to be the representative of a pharmaceutical company that, held you at a really high standard too, and that's what I struggle with, like not allowing that to come out so much and be so stuffy in my content because I tend to go, you know what I mean? Like,
Too. That was a challenge for me too. Coming out of corporate was unraveling that professional language. Like I had written so many professional emails that it would just flow out that way, right? It's like, oh yeah, I don't have to be this way anymore. And that was again, all of these blocks are so multifaceted. That was another piece for this client that I just mentioned was she hated when people in her broader network would like her posts because she's like, oh God, they're seeing me. Oh
mhm.
God, they're watching me. Oh God, what are they thinking? They probably think I'm too sensitive, right? Is like what's really happening under the surface that we discovered. But just recognizing, wow, that's where some of that discomfort comes from is just fear of like, what are they going to think of me now that I'm out here on my own making these TikTok videos and like having fun with life, right?
Making money, having fun while
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
yeah. Well, just this morning, one of my old managers liked one of my posts that I made. And so I was like, oh, it was a reminder. I was like, oh, that's right. There's all these people, like there was 800 people who are from my old pharma days that see this stuff too. Like they might be one of the people who see it. And
Yeah.
I like, and then there's, it's so funny to see one of your, well, like for the most part, I forget that they're even there, but it's kind of like one time I was doing like an Instagram live and my mom hopped on and I was like, oh my God, I'm weirded out now. I'm like, hi mom, what's going on? Let's talk sales. It's like back in December and like she doesn't even remember. Like, I don't think she even realized I was live, like on a live stream. But anyway, so, but yeah, like, or there's this like, for me at first, when I first came on LinkedIn doing the sales thing, even me with 20 years of experience, there was the thought of like, what are they going to think? Like, who am I to be teaching on sales? Like what do I know that, I mean, to me it seems so easy because here I'm surrounded by thousands of other pharma reps who are trained the same way that I am, right? Or there's so many people in my network who have done the same thing and continue to do the same thing every day and get awards for it just like I did and get promotions for it just like I did. So there was like that thing of like, what makes me think I'm so special that I can come out and do this when I've got 800 people in my network who are doing it today already, and that was like a weird thing to like come up against. That it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like how,
Yeah.
it's crazy how we can like be really talented but discount it so much.
Imposter syndrome is real.
Right?
And it's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one thing that tapping really supported me with before this was earlier on my journey with tapping. I was a career coach before I did tapping and had a lot of imposter syndrome in that space and had particular things that would trigger me. One in particular for me was like, if my client didn't fill out their homework sheet, I would immediately turn that inwards and be like, why didn't you get a better result for them, Jess? Like, what's wrong with you? They didn't do the homework. What's my problem that they didn't do their homework? I must not be a good coach because they didn't do
It
their
must
homework.
not be that interesting. It's not good enough. I need better homework, right?
Totally. And so tapping really supported me with that. And it was really fascinating. That was a very specific example for me where it could then come up. I had one client in particular that would never fill out the homework sheet. And so tapping really supported me in eliminating that trigger so
Yeah.
that the blank homework sheet could happen. And I would be like, okay, great. That's about them. It's
Yeah.
not about me. I'm a great coach. I'm
Yeah.
getting great results with all of my clients. Let's not discount my full page of testimonials, right? For this one person that's just triggering my self-worth wound, right? And so tapping really supported me in that. And it feels amazing to be able to not be triggered by the things that really work you up.
Yeah. So I love that. Now, how did you handle that then? So you say you go back into those memories, right? And you look at where were the memories where somebody not doing what you told them to do, right? Or thinking that they didn't need to listen to you, right? And then you tap on acknowledging that. Like, what does the tapping process look like for people who might never have done it before? Like after you've dug through and found like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? The
Yes.
memory.
Yes. So I'll go back to my client that she's really present to me because I'm working with her currently.
Yeah.
She's too sensitive, right? I'm too sensitive to be posting things on LinkedIn and to write emails to my community. So how tapping works is we start with the present day thing, right? She's like, oh my gosh, it feels really uncomfortable to post on LinkedIn. Go through coaching questions. Why, right? Like, what's that about? And it's a lot of where do you feel that in your body?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel this like tightness in my chest, right? Because our body is holding memories of these experiences. So I get them connected with the experience that they're having in their body. And as we tap, it kind of like loosens up your mind. And when we ask our brain questions, our brain wants to offer answers, right? So as we're tapping, we might tap through where did this come from? When
Yeah.
have I felt this before? When was the first time that I felt this? And it's crazy how like memories will just pop up and they're like, oh my God, I have no idea where this came from. And a lot of times they're like, I don't think this is relevant. And I'm like, it's relevant. Your brain gets for a reason, right? And so one of this particular client's past memories that came up that again might seem so simple to some people was that she was at a sleepover trying to roll up her sleeping bag as a little fifth grader, right? Couldn't do it. Started crying because she couldn't do it and had a friend come up to her and say, "You're so sensitive." So
Oh,
it's fascinating how those memories will surface and we discount them because it seems simple and we're like, well, that was stupid, right? And it wasn't. That really meant something to her as a little kid. And so once we have those past memories, what needs to happen is we need to experience the emotions that we didn't get to experience at the time. So shame. She felt a lot of shame in that moment. And so we get to tap into that shame in the present moment, tap on it. When we are tapping on these pressure points on our body, it is sending a calming signal to our brain. So we're kind of doing opposite responses. We bring up the uncomfortable emotion and then we layer the tapping on top of it. That's a soothing response. So it smooths all of that out. And then people can release that memory from their past. They can release the need to hold on to that shame and continue experiencing it. It's kind of like closing the loop. It's like, okay, this is done now. We're
yeah.
not experiencing that anymore. And then that's how the present moment changes. So it's crazy how like I've tapped on I didn't make the 10th grade volleyball team and felt a lot of shame about that, right? And that was showing up in my business. So it
Yeah.
feels unrelated, but the emotions are the same in both experiences is the key here that we're processing.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I love it. Yeah. Wow. The way that you do this is magical, Jess. I absolutely love. I'm so glad we have this conversation because it makes even me look at tapping in a totally different way. I feel like you're the perfect one for this discussion. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you tell everybody where they can find you? Because I am sure that after listening to this, you're gonna want to go follow Jess and get in on her magic that she does. And if you have a special offer to offer them, I can share it in the show notes as well.
Okay, perfect. So you can find me at Jess Smith Coaching on LinkedIn. I've got TikTok and Instagram on my 3 social media platforms. And then I do have a super special offer just for your listeners. I have a tapping video. It's about 15 minutes. So it won't take up too much of your day, which is nice. It's a nice, quick solution for when you have anxious thought spirals. So this might be related to money, right? Getting on a sales call. It's like that anxiety spiral ahead of time. That's like, oh gosh, I just got all these thoughts and they're explosive and they're all over the place and I'm totally out of control and I can't seem to get myself off of that spiral. The video is perfect for that because when we start with our emotions, our thoughts will shift naturally. So if we just allow ourselves to experience some of that emotional turmoil that's coming up instead of trying to reject it, which is what most of us, we were taught to reject it.
Yeah.
If we allow ourselves to feel it and layer the tapping on top of it, it can smooth out that emotion of anxiety. Your thoughts naturally shift and your body comes back to being calm. So I have used this video to take myself from 8 out of 10 anxiety down to 0 in just 15 minutes.
Oh, I love that. Now that is great because usually when you feel anxiety for 15 minutes, it goes to 15 hours and then overnight, and then all the chocolate in your house is gone and you called everybody and bitched for like 6 hours. You know what I mean?
Yes, completely. Yes, this will head that off.
There we go. And then you can be productive again. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jess. I'm so excited that we got to talk. And guys, go follow Jess. Go, you need her. So stop pretending you don't.
Thank you so much for having me, Cassie. You're so fun to talk to and just like so authentic. So I appreciate you creating this space today.
Thank you so much. Well, it is, I love having an uncensored kind of, like unabridged version of a sales conversation because I feel like so often people think that they're alone in the way they feel, and conversations like this can show you that even people who look like they've got their shit together go through the same things and go through the same kind of thoughts
Yeah.
and like questioning and doubts, or just there's a lot of people out there like you if you're feeling this way. And so don't feel that you're special by having shame at asking for money, because a lot of people do, and you're in that way you could be special in other ways, right? So Thank you so much. And we will be seeing you all, well, I will, in the next episode. So if you haven't hit subscribe yet, go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And I will be seeing you. Bye. If you've ever sat there and looked at your DMs and been like, oh my God, this is literally full of crickets. Like there's nothing going on but the rent here. And you're like, oh my gosh, what does it take to actually have an inbox full of people wanting to work with me, having leads coming to me every day, having people saying, send me the link, and really have these results that you see other people having, and you just like think that there's something wrong with you because you're not getting it. If this is you, then listen up. I have the most amazing way to work together. And I feel like this is something that you don't have to experience, right? If you've posted up content every single day for months now and you're still not getting any inbound leads reaching out to you, and you actually want to fill your programs with ideal clients and have people saying, send me the link, and really build your business, but you feel like it should be working right now, then don't throw in the towel. Come to Mama Cass. I want to see you filling your programs with dream clients. I want you to feel like you're so completely confident when you're promoting your programs, and that you hear way more of a yes instead of getting ghosted, and you know exactly what to say during your sales conversations. And when you show up, whether it's in the DMs and you're talking to like the crazy amount of people that really want to work with you, or you're on a sales call, I want you to be able to get on the phone and get on sales calls with people who are already pre-sold, saying, how can we get started, without you even having to pitch them. And even when you do have to pitch them and you get to that point in the sales call, it's so easy breezy that it's just like, it's easy as breathing, right? I want you to know that this is possible, because this month I'm starting with a group of experts, a group of coaches and consultants who really want to grow their business. And I'm going to teach you how to turn your coaching business into a sales machine, but one that's actually fun to run, right? Like the Maserati of sales machines, a Porsche, right? So we're going to go way past just giving you trainings and processes to create a steady flow of inbound quality leads. I'm actually going to be practicing scenarios with you so that you know how to close your sales, you know how to develop customer relationships, and you get real-time feedback on your actual DMs so that you start closing sales in the DMs and you start hearing more yes on your sales calls. And I'm even going to give you the tools to clear out the old fears and beliefs and the frustrating emotions that have prevented you from making sales, so that you start stacking money in your bank account. There's nothing else like this online. I expect this first group to fill up really quickly, and I want you to send me a DM on Instagram or on LinkedIn with the word sales. Tell me that you heard this on the podcast, and I will get you the details, because I want to see you wildly successful. I want this ripple effect to really take off. It makes me happier to see your results than to see my own, because it means that this ripple effect is happening, and that the work we do together is going far beyond just the call that we are on, that it's going on to impact your clients and impact the lives surrounded by them as well. This is the vibe. So this is what we're doing in the Sales Queen Takeover. You're going to learn how to attract leads that are aligned with you, that feel great working with. You're going to learn how to do this in a way where you're able to easily close them on the sales calls, easily close in the DMs, so that you can get to work helping the people who need you most, and that you can have an insane amount of impact on the world on a daily basis. So I look forward to seeing you there. I am so excited for this to get started, and I can't wait to hear what you create. If you loved this episode of I'm Not Salesy, then go ahead and hit subscribe so that you're notified of the next episode. And also leave a 5-star rating and a review. And if you send it to the link in the show notes, we will send you a present in return. We also love to feature reviews on the podcast as well. So we'd love to feature yours. So go ahead and send a screenshot to the inbox and come find me on social media. I love hearing what you're up to and how you're becoming not salesy too. I'll see you in the next episode.